Energy independence, or energy, the better way to describe that, I think, is energy diversity, so that we have numerous sources of energy, as much of it domestic as possible. Maybe not all of it has to be domestic. Dependence on Canada is very, very different than dependence on parts of the Middle East or even Venezuela.
A year ago, last February, there was almost a successful attack by a suicide bomber on an oil refinery in Saudi Arabia. If that attack had succeeded, I think you know, Peter, the price of oil would have gone to $150 a barrel. We've got to make Americans understand that it's not only going green for the fact that we have to address climate change and give a better planet to our children and grandchildren, but it's also clearly a national security issue.
So developing these new technologies, whether they're ethanol,
whether it be a better battery,
or hydrogen, or clean coal,
making sure that Americans know that nuclear power is safe,
figuring out how you can take solar and wind power and retain the charge in a battery,
to being able to make better biofuels and make more efficient ethanol.
The downside of those technologies is they're not consistent.
We all know that oil, like anything else in the world, is a finite resource. And with China and India's demands growing, there's no doubt that we will never see a real decrease in the price of oil in the world.
We have more nuclear power. Nuclear power is in the United States.
I also believe fervently in nuclear power.
If we have more clean coal, coal is in the United States.
French now generate 80% of their power with nuclear.
And we don't then have to be in the frustrating position of funding our enemies, which we now have to do, unfortunately and tragically.
I believe that we need to do a cap-and-trade proposal, which Joe Lieberman and I have proposed for several years.
France is less dependent than America. Brazil is way ahead of us on ethanol. No point in Brazil being ahead of us on ethanol. We should be ahead of Brazil on ethanol.
And I believe that the greatest nation in the world, with the smartest people in the world, with the most innovation in the world, that we can develop the technologies which will reduce greenhouse gas emissions and save this planet.
So I think it needs, the way I describe it is, it needs kind of an impetus and a focus put around it, like we did when we fell behind the Soviets in the race for space. But it took a lot of government help, a lot of government pushing, a lot of incentives, a lot of innovation. That's what we have to do now for energy independence.
And I believe that the way we're going to succeed in addressing this and preventing even further damage to our planet is people like you.
This is no longer a question of just economics. It's a question of national security.
We must reduce our dependence on foreign oil. It's an absolute imperative.